Folks, we're going to call the December 23rd Development Review Board meeting to order. First order of business is roll call. All members are present. First order of business, we're going to reopen the public hearing for Greg Moriello and Janet Johnson. Is there anyone who's here to speak on behalf of this applicant tonight? Okay. So we did receive a new piece of information in this hearing, which shows their stream alteration permit is set for review by the state, and we've been waiting for that to be completed. We did not receive any other information. With that, I make a motion to recess this hearing until next month. Okay. Any discussion? Anything from Zoom, Jared?
Negative.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda, we're going to open a recess public hearing for Shaw's Supermarket. Is there anyone who's here to speak on behalf of this applicant tonight?
Hello. Yeah. Nicholas Nitschke.
Sounds good. Is there, and I know you were previously sworn in, is there anyone who was not sworn in at a previous hearing, you are still sworn in, that needs to be sworn in to talk on this?
I don't think so.
Want to give us an update?
Sure. I believe a letter was submitted to the board from Nadine Lynch from Shaw's requesting an extension on the construction progress for the floodproofing. The update as far as the progress is that we received the permit on 8/27, and essentially that was required before any funding could be released for the project, and now we have that. So now we've been able to initiate the authorization for the design of the custom flood doors and gates that need to be fabricated. So it's the fabrication design drawings. Those have now been authorized and released. Since every one of those products is custom fabricated for each application, the delivery date for those is going to be around mid-December. So there's quite a long lead time for that product. So given that, we're here to request a 120-day extension to the construction timeline for the project, just to make sure that we can get all those products in and properly installed as designed and approved by.
Recording progress.
And this is based off the state permit? You just said permits, so just to make sure we got on the record, that was reference to the state permit?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments, questions from the board?
Does that include the windows too?
Correct.
Nick, I joined in late. This is Bill Faraday at Vertex. So if you have any questions, if I missed anything, just let me know.
Okay, Bill, were you sworn in previously, Bill?
I was, yes.
Okay, okay, thanks. Any other questions from the board?
None for me.
Okay. We'll let you guys know, we'll discuss it, and we'll give you guys a decision on that. Thank you. I make a motion that we recess this hearing until October.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Anything on Zoom? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we are going to reopen a recess preliminary review for Okemo Limited Liability Company. We did receive a letter from their agent, Ted Reeves, to recess this hearing until next month.
So just for clarification, did we open a hearing? Or
Yes, it's previously was open. from last month. So with that request, unless there's any other questions or comments,
I'll make a motion, we recess till next month.
I'll sit.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Anything from Zoom, Jared? I can swear you in. One second. Repeat after me. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give relative to the matter now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? I do. Okay, come on up and tell us your name to the podium.
No shit. This agenda or item has been on it 3 months in a row. It seems like it's been, everyone knew it wasn't gonna happen, and I think along with some other public are eager to hear the plan. So yeah, I just don't know why it's been on there 3 months in a row. We haven't got
The applicant at any point can request a recess if for some reason they feel that they need additional time, and we'll gladly agree to that obligation. Rather have them come once with all their ducks in a row than come 4 different times and kind of play the game back and forth. You're welcome.
If someone reached out to the planning office, would we be able to give them the information if there's going to be recess?
Yes, I had a brief discussion with Ted Reeves and asked him that if he felt it was going to go longer than another month to let me know, and we would not put it on the agenda until he was certain it would be on the agenda. And by the way, this is not a hearing, it is simply a preliminary review, does not require a decision. So just to clarify that, when you said you previously opened it.
Yeah, we opened the open the preliminary review.
Right.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments from the board? Okay. Anything else on Zoom for the discussion section?
Negative.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Want to make a note that the microphone is not on at the stand. We couldn't hear Noah at all.
Can't hear that, Mike.
So we couldn't hear what,
They're saying the
that
microphone's
mic?
not working.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
I can hear everyone on the board totally fine, just the mic at the stand is not on.
Okay. We're working on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we're going to open a new public hearing for John and Susan Marchinko. Go ahead, Jared.
This is application number 505-24-FHR. Applicants are John and Susan Marchica. Property owners are the same. Project description: the application is for a flood hazard review and replacement of a building damaged by the flood of July 10th, 2023. This project is located in the Village Residential Commercial District. The hearing date is today, September 23rd, 2024, 6 p.m. Public postings were at the town clerk's office, town hall bulletin boards, post office, and town website on September 9th, 2024. Also in the newspaper of record, the Vermont Journal, on August 28th, 2024, and the abutting property owners were notified on August 23rd, 2024. George.
Thank you very much, Jared. Is there someone here to speak on behalf of this hearing today? Me. Okay, so we'll swear whoever wants to speak to this hearing, you do have to be sworn in, so please repeat after me. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give relative to the matter now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? I do.
I do.
Okay. If you can just state your name for the
John
record.
Marchica.
Did you hear that okay, Abby?
No.
Yes, sounds great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So tell us about your project, sir.
I'm rebuilding the, what I guess was the old Ludlow Market at one point. It's
Reba's store.
Yes. So I'm putting it back exactly where it was, except for I'm putting it up 4 feet in the off the ground. I'm shortening it up a little bit and then not making it 20 feet wide at the backside. I don't know if anybody remembers, it was a little smaller in the front and then larger at the back. So I'm making it at 18 by 38 instead of, I think it was 20, that one at the back end, and then It's like 39 feet long. So I plan on putting it back exactly where it was, hooking up to the same septic and the same water that's there. I'm going to turn the front of it around, so the front will be on the backside and not on the street. We'll have access through a ramp on the front, through the backside on the parking lot. And then on the street, I'll have another access that is just stairs down. I wanted to move it off the road a little bit, but I'm just going to leave it where it is and do the same thing I have going on there.
Thank you. So just, did you get a copy of the letter from Kyle Medash?
No.
He's the floodplain manager?
No.
Okay. We'll make sure, reach out to Jared, we'll get a copy of that to you.
What did it say?
So that's what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So he basically provides a response letter to what we submit your entire packet to him,
Right.
being of where you're located. And this is a flood hazard review. So the big things of note that he talks about, appears that the structure will be elevated on concrete piers where the bottom of the floor joists will be approximately 4 feet above BFE, which meets the plus 1 foot BFE requirements. However, the structure elevations will need to be verified post-construction with an up-to-date elevation certificate. The one previously provided is no longer valid based off the date that expired July 31st, 2002 that you provided. So in order to get a CO upon completion, you will need a new elevation certificate. The other merits of note, and this is where he pulls directly from some regulation. I'll read it as his quotation. All of the requirements for enclosed areas apply. Requirements including openings, elevated utilities, flood drainage, flood damage resistant materials, and limitations on use, parking of vehicles, building access or storage, skirting used to enclose areas under manufactured homes or other elevated buildings is typically made of weather-resistant material and extends from the bottom of the floor system down to grade. Rigid vinyl and aluminum skirting must have flood openings. Flood openings are not required with flexible skirting when flexible skirting is used, but flexible skirting may be pushed against foundation if flood water rises rapidly, in which case open lattice may be more appropriate. Unattached skirting can become dislodged during flooding and generate damaged debris. So his comment from pulling from the regulations, I recommend he requested further information to ensure that the hinge skirting along the bottom of your structure meets that criteria. So it wasn't super clear on the plans what you'd wanted to do with that.
Yeah,
So if we could just get a little bit more information.
Sure, I thought I included that, but my plan is to either have hinged, right? And the lattice work is due to me. I didn't plan on putting down lattice because I thought if in fact it let go, it would just go downstream. So my goal is to either do the lattice or the hinged.
Yeah, with like a floodgate?
Yeah, similar
Okay.
to what is at the mobile home park now.
Okay.
If you've seen those, I mean, that's the intent that I don't want this to happen again. I don't want my place to flood. I don't want to go through this again. So we're trying to make it so things are elevated, including the propane, because I'll have propane.
We're going to get to that.
Okay.
He has a comment on that. He just basically, that comment is where that comes from, is he wants to make sure that you're aware of the regulation.
Yeah.
And that it has to meet that regulation. Typically, we see people use that kind of the flood baffle system, basically where there's an opening where it can flow through. Basically, if the water rises, it flows in and then flows out the other side.
Yeah, and I mean, that's my goal, again, is everything's up on these piers so that water no longer just simply flows under the.
Yep. And that's basically and that's kind of where he pulls that from the regulation to make sure that you understand what their requirements are.
Yeah. Sure.
So kind of going through his next on the comment is about the access. And I'll read right from what he wrote. The application states that a wheelchair ramp will be placed at the rear of the building with a landing, stairs, and ramp, and the roadside will have a landing with stairs. The stairs, ramp, and landing components require the use of flood-resistant materials and structural components requiring anchoring into the ground on concrete footers, similar to the piers. He basically, from the original packet that we submitted to him, he then goes, I recommend requesting additional information to ensure that this meets the requirements of 660. Basically, they're looking that if the flood water does rise, that it doesn't rip your stairs off and send those downstream.
Yeah, what we're going to do is put a pad down.
Okay.
And then everything will be anchored to the pad.
Okay. Following up with that.
That's the front and back, because we'll have that small landing in the,
Yep.
that's on the
So
road.
where you've got the front with
Yep.
the stairs, the back's got the ramp.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And so then his next to last paragraph, he talks about the propane tank. Application mentions a 125-gallon propane tank may be placed on the east side of the new building. That will be on a cement pad with a tie down. If
Yeah.
installed, the bottom of the propane tank must be at least 1 foot above BFE and securely anchored. Elevation information and tie down will be needed for propane tank to ensure compliance. So to pair along with that, are you familiar with the above ground storage tank rules published by the state of Vermont?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Okay, so in there, basically after Irene, they adjusted what they talked about for above ground storage methods. And that's under 9305, installation of tank systems in flood prone areas. And unfortunately, that's where you're located, in a flood prone area.
Yeah,
So basically, through the kind of couple of pages that describe, they give some options of how that's possible. The biggest of which is that the vent needs to be above 1 foot above BFE. So there is some options to be mounted directly on the ground.
It's likely it'll be above the ground.
Okay.
I had 4 or 5 of those tanks sitting in my yard for a while. So yeah, I don't want my tank. Actually, my tank, I had everybody else's tank. Mine was missing, which is weird. So I don't want that to happen. So what we're likely to do is cement, put down something to hold the tank up, probably, some TP wood, or I don't know. So we'll end up anchoring it down to cement and having it about 4 feet off the ground, close to the height of the building.
Sounds good, as long as it meets one of those requirements.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board?
Oh, can I just ask one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
They said the bottom of the tank needs to be 1 foot above base.
Yep, so in his letter, he references what would you call that, Jared? The old change?
Well, BFE is 1 foot above base flood elevation.
Yeah.
BFE plus 1, and we are moving to DFE,
Which is 2 feet.
which is 2 feet
Yeah.
above
Okay.
BFE.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
For better guidance, on top of just what he stated here, if you go to 9305 of the Vermont, it's the installation of tank systems in flood-prone areas. I give some regulation that they use, and a little bit clearer. So as long as you choose one of those approved methods, that will meet the requirements of section 660 in our regulations.
All right, perfect. Okay. What else we got?
Questions from the board?
Is there going to be a handicap exit on the back of it?
Yeah, the back of it.
The parking's in the back?
Yup. It was the only place I could put it. I couldn't put it on either side, and I didn't want to move the building back any further, so yeah, that's where it's going.
So, any other questions from the board?
Outside lighting.
I don't plan on having outside. We had, at one point, there was a light that was on the sign, but no, I don't plan on it.
Thank you.
So we do have two serve letters for you here. So in the ambulance letter, basically their request is that you'd have it numbered according to the E911 standards, as it probably previously was.
Yes.
With reflective numbering visible from the roadway. Being that this is a one-unit building, you don't need any unit numbers. Under the Ludlow Fire Department letter, his conditions are approved permits shall be obtained by the Division of Fire and Safety prior to construction, and occupancy shall be granted by Vermont Division of Fire and Safety prior to being occupied. So I think I did see your Vermont Fire Marshal.
Yes, yep.
Inspection. And there are no requirements from the Police Department. Any other questions from the board? Do you have any questions for us?
If it's approved, when can I start building?
So we have 45 days to issue a decision. Hopefully, we will give you a decision in less than that. And once you receive that permit, then you're good to go.
I don't have any.
Just as a thing of note, in here it was that you did start construction before the permit process.
I did?
We appreciate that you did come forth to us, but in the future.
Just as an explanation, if you need one.
We're welcome to hear it.
I was trying to take advantage of the construction guy who was out there, the earth moving guy. He was helping the mobile home park. He said, if you want to save the $500 travel time, he said, I can put the pylons in. And I said, okay, without considering that. Jared was nice enough to say, John, you can't be building without a permit. I said, okay. And the truck disappeared. So that was I didn't have any intention of doing it.
No, that's okay.
He was there at the time.
Is there any hands raised on Zoom or anything, Jared?
No, I think it was second.
Okay.
No.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Okay. I make a motion that we close this hearing.
I'll second.
Discussion? Anything on Zoom, Jared?
Negative.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks.
Next on the agenda, we're going to open a new public hearing for the Expeditionary School at Black River. Go ahead, Jared.
Application number is 504-24-VA. The applicant is the Expeditionary School at Black River. Property owner is Town of Ludlow. The application is for a variance to install an electronic sign in place of the current signboard. This project is in the Village Residential Commercial District. Hearing date is today, September 23rd, 2024, 6 p.m. Public postings were made at the town clerk's office, town hall bulletin boards, post office, and town website on September 9th, 2024, and in the newspaper of record, the Vermont Journal, on August 28th, 2024, and the abutting property owners were notified on August 23rd, 2024. George.
Thank you, Jared. Any person who's here to speak to this hearing, you do have to be sworn in, so please do repeat after me. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence that you shall give relative to the matter now under consideration shall be the whole truth and under the penalties and under the pains and penalties of perjury? I do. Okay, come tell us about your project.
I'm Patrick Pullman, the chairperson of the Expeditionary School at Black River. We currently reside in the building that's owned by the town of Ludlow. We lease part of the building for our school. And we would like to propose that we update our current signboard with an electronic sign, a digital sign, that would be used by both the school and have the opportunity to be used by the community. Just an example of that would be being able to post something kind of on the fly, and that would be like no school this weekend, so school related, but at the same time, if we needed to, we could post an Amber Alert if that's warranted by the local police department, along with any other important announcements that should be made. The signboard will actually be mounted on the existing sign that's there. There would be a slight modification to the sign itself. We would add a canopy, whereas now there is not a canopy. We plan on having electrical outlets run to the sign to be able to supply electricity for the sideboard. And these signs would be mounted on both sides of the board. So
I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. So under the viability of a variance, there's a few questions that are governed by state regulation. And they require us basically to ask these. And if the answer is basically no, we can't grant it.
Sure.
So in your best ability, describe how you would meet this qualification. That the unique physical conditions, such as shape of a lot, perpendicular, topography, or conditions create an unnecessary hardship for you.
I know I've submitted a sheet to you.
Do you want me to give him the sheets so he can
Do you
refer?
want us to give you back your sheet? If
Yeah, my sheet,
that gives you better for,
because it gives you all,
Because
because it does, it says right in the first one.
Thank you. I did respond to that. The Expeditionary School at Black River is located at the old Black River High School, which is rented from the town of Ludlow. Unique circumstance in that it's a public building owned by the town of Ludlow and operated as a school. We believe the circumstances qualify under the sign exemption for public buildings.
any questions from the board from that question?
No.
Question 2, basically provide us your best answer to this question. That there is no possibility that the property can be developed without a variance, which is necessary to enable the reasonable use of the property.
I respond, we are an independent school that rents the building from the town of Ludlow. We do not qualify without a variance. It should be noted that we are approved school by the Vermont Agency of Education, which enables us to access tuition money for Ludlow. Ludlow Mount Holly Unified Union School students, 7 through 12, who attend DSBR. We believe that renting the public building from Ludlow and being approved to accept public tuition money is a reasonable circumstance to allow us to modify the current signboard to a digital signboard.
Any questions from the board? One question for me is, was there consideration for a non-electric sign?
There was.
Okay, and why was your choice to choose an electric sign to apply for the variance?
The advantage of an electric sign is that it can be controlled through cell phone, through iPad or computer in the school district. It can be updated and changed regularly. If you notice as you drive by, oftentimes the sign sits there and reads the same thing for weeks on end. And it's in part because right now, presently, the board's old, it's warped, the letters don't stay up the way they are. And in a lot of schools and a lot of communities, they have their electronic signs to be able to regularly update announcements, as opposed to putting one up that sits there for a week or two, as well as during the wintertime, to get out there to make the changes to the signboard isn't that advantageous, as easy as maybe being connected by internet.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Pat, tell us about the sign itself. Is it just going to be like a bulletin board sign, or is it going to be rotating or flashing? Is words going to be going by with figures running and balloons like flying by?
It is a digital computerized signboard capable of doing all of that, but understandably, I recognize that's not what the community wants. It's not like we want to be Las Vegas. It really is more just intended to have a well-lit sign with the wordings that can be, like I said, changed on a regular basis, so you're not stuck with just one message that sits there. As far as the actual changing of the sign, I wouldn't anticipate that we'll have something that I know we're not going to have anything that's scrolling, but it may change periodically, 15 minutes or 20 minutes to have a different message. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Is the message the same on both sides of the sign? It can be the same on both sides of the sign.
And how do you put the 911 address on both sides?
In reference to,
Well, the fire chief says the 911 address has to be on both sides.
correct. So currently where the sign is on each side, the posts are 5x5 posts that are 8 feet tall, that have faces that are actually 6 inches wide, not 5, where you could put the 911 numbers on both sides. So those 911 numbers wouldn't be as part of this particular sign, but it would be attached to the current sign that's there.
Other questions from the board?
Is your plan to run would it be on 24 hours a day? Is it going to run for certain hours? Is it?
I would think it could be 24 hours a day, but if there's restrictions or whatever, we could abide by that. I believe we can program the sign that way.
Anything else from the board on that question before we go to number 3? Okay. So question 3 basically comes into regard that this was not an unnecessary hardship that was created by yourself.
Well, when we rented the building, we inherited the signboard, which is showing its age. We believe it needs to be updated. The signboard has been an integral part of informing the community of both school and public events. And actually, as you drive into town, that's one of the first things that people coming into the community see. And whether it's reminders to vote today or vote this week or whatever, it would be beneficial, I believe, to both community and school.
I got a question.
Okay, go ahead, Phil.
Pat, well, what do you think the message, would the messages just revolve around school activities, or would it supersede that and
Our
talk about the chili cook-off?
Our intent and purpose would be to use it for school events, school activities, school calendars. However, if the community came to us, the town came to us and said, could you will post this, then, we'd be willing to announce it. So I'm sure it could be helpful in using announcements for cookie chill-off, chili cook-off, Little League opening day, so the likes.
But not real estate or
No,
you're selling your car and you want to put it up there?
No. Again, I think if you go around to any other school community that uses their sign, it's mostly school announcements. Some will post community announcements, but no, not selling any vehicles or real estate.
So question 4, it covers under the guise of that a variance would not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or impair development or adjoining lots.
The digital signboard will not alter the character of the neighborhood. It is an update of the existing sign. There will be a canopy which will prevent light sky luminance, light pollution. It will not impair the development of adjacent properties. It is located in a well-developed neighborhood and should not impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent property.
So my one question on this is we don't have backlit signs in the town of Ludlow, and that's part of the reason, so that's part of the variance is that why do you think you being allowed to have a backlit sign when no one else is allowed that would not alter the community?
I think that there's a time and a place for some things to move into a different era. Again, it's school, but it's also community property, town property. I think it would be something that would be a benefit to the town and to a school as well. It understandably is moving in a direction we haven't gone forever. But again, with the idea of it being a community, town of Ludlow owned, It's, I hear a lot of people that have said to me, great idea, town needs it, but, so I don't know if that answered your question, but.
That covers it. Anything from the board?
No.
So under question 5, last one, that the variance is in the minimum necessary to afford relief in the least deviation possible from the zoning regulations.
Well, we believe an 18 by 40 digital sign on the existing structure is the simplest method to update the sign without substantially altering the intent of the sign zoning regulation. And the use of the digital sign will allow for regular updating of school and community information. So.
Any questions from the board? I know we did swear in a few other people. Did they have comments? Okay, come on up to the podium and tell us your name, and we'll gladly hear from you.
Pam O'Neill. I guess, my concern is just what that will do to our town as we're driving in. And the first thing you're going to see is a digital sign. There are no, as you stated, externally lit pieces. The school had, when it was Black River High School, the school had wanted to pursue that sign long before the closure, and didn't get to the developmental review because the town wasn't in support, and we wanted the integrity of the small town and to continue. I appreciate they talk about a community, use a board, but the school's in the building now. I think the lease is up soon, to see if that were to happen again. If it is a town building, and this was something that the town that felt was so important to have a community board like that, why are they not part of this process? The select board or the village. The property is in a residential commercial, but it's just before the historic, right? I think it ends at that white building that neighbors the school. I can't imagine coming in, we've cleared out some properties from flood, and there are going to be green areas, and then we come into town and there's this board for a school that, again, appreciate saying community events, but the reality is they're their own private entity. They don't have to. Maybe your permit could say you have to do this. They're not hearing anything about the elementary school being part of it. I think school was referring to the exhibitionary school. The idea of an externally lit sign when we have when it's been denied throughout the town, even when it's in commercial or more highly dense commercial areas, that they could put it inside their wall, there are lots of windows in that school. Could put the same messages inside, like Coda and Coda. I think we're opening up a huge can of worms that what would stop anybody now. And then a final question is, the town plan. Like, is there reference? I haven't reviewed it, but is there signage pieces or more details in the town plan?
So basically, as it sits right now, why we're under the variance process is currently, the sign that's proposed is against the zoning.
Okay, so
that's why you go through the variance process. Okay. So the grand scheme of variances says, why should we let you go against the current regulation?
And I guess I just want to go on the record that I don't, that while there's some pieces the Ludlow just did, we just put on there the emergency alert system, the real-time system. So if it's an Amber Alert, in addition to all the phones going off for an Amber Alert, you also have your local, that's even faster time, because when it goes in, it's going up live to people. I just strongly ask the board to, not consider that I believe that messages can be out there in a different way than a externally lit digital sign that you see coming into town.
Thank you for your comments. And was there one more comment from the back? Go ahead. Come on. Noah, sorry. We'll come back to you. Sorry.
Noah Schmidt. I thought I had my decision made up on this issue, but I think Pat made some really good points, and I really don't have a, either way, but some things I think the town and you guys should think about is who owns that sign when, if that lease ever expires, and, what happens there, who's covering that cost of all of that. I think, we do have some precedent with the Chamber of Commerce with the time, temperature, I think has real good value to the town. Having a community board where we can have meetings and vote, and I think there is some good value in that. Is that the best location? I know you look at the town's website at calendar events, it is chock full. How do you manage that? If the town was part of this, we have a flood, how does the town have access to that sign to be able to do that kind of thing? And then just kind of understanding the precedent that, this is town property. We're kind of saying, hey, it's okay for us to do it. It could open a can of worms for things down the road.
Thank you very much. We'll let you respond to, if you have any responses.
Sure.
Oh, sir.
We do have one hand up, and they have not been sworn in yet.
Okay. Let's have him respond to these ones, and then we'll come over to that one.
I was just going to thank Pam because we definitely would include Ludlow Elementary as part of the people that would probably want to use some announcements.
Okay. Thank you. So we got somebody on Zoom that has not been sworn in yet that has a comment. And which name's that? You see what that name is?
William Caprazan.
Okay. Hi, William. Can you hear me okay?
He's got to unmute.
You got to unmute first.
It's Patricia Corzon.
Oh, okay. Hi, Patricia. So before you make your comment, we do have to swear you in. So just please repeat after me. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give relative to the matter now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? I do.
I do.
Okay. What's your comment?
Well, I'm one of the residents across the street from the school here in the mobile home park. And I would just like to say that I am against having an electronic sign. I agree that there could be better places and maybe there is a need for some of it, but just not in that location. I think you're opening up a can of worms. I think anybody that would want to have a sign, maybe the cider donut place or maybe Village Pizza or anybody up and down the road might want to have an electronic sign to advertise their business. And you're setting a precedent by allowing a private school to do it, whether or not they're going to be putting up community work or not. That's not really their position. It's the town should be putting up the information of the town. Just because they lease through the town doesn't mean that they would be putting up the activities that are going around here. I just wanted to voice my opinion that I would like you to maybe not consider this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. And what was your whole name again, just for the record?
Patricia Corzon.
Okay. Thank you, Patricia. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board?
I have a question for Pat.
Let's have Phil go ahead first, then we'll come back to comments.
When you were kind of thinking about this and obviously talking about it amongst yourselves, did you consider other types of signs? And why didn't you want to go with a non-digital?
I mentioned that, I think, earlier, but the answer pretty much was this is kind of the technology and where the world is going. It's an opportunity to be able to change the wording, the message from in the building or from remote distance. So we kind of went this direction. I understand it's, a little outside the box for some people, but again, it's common in a lot of schools, a lot of areas, but I'm sure there are other options out there to go back and look at it.
The sign that's there now, how long do you think that's been there?
At least
Wild guess?
80s.
No, not the one, you're not talking about the stone one, you're talking about the other one.
The big one that's, the one we're looking
The
to,
closest to,
Yes.
the closest to where the removable letters, that's not that old.
90s?
I would say maybe early 2000, because it was added on before, sometime a little bit before when Sue Hollander retired, because.
No, I was there before I got to school, and I was there in 1996, 7? So.
A while.
A while.
A while.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Just the stone ones will be around.
yep.
Other questions from the board before we go back to public comments? Okay, go ahead. Come on up.
Trevor Benson. So I guess one of the questions that I've got is, obviously you guys know the family that I come from, and with having the dealership in town, we had gone forward to the board numerous times to get a internally lit sign, which a LED sign is considered internally lit, as well as I'm sure many other businesses in this town have gone forth to try to get an internally lit sign to, broadcast their business, get everybody to stand out in time. Like, it is a new age, I get it. But if this does go through, one of the things that I would ask is, are we going to be allowed to, here forward, allow internally lit signs? Because we had internally lit signs on our old building. And when we changed and moved across the road and even removed the old sign that we had along the roadside and put it back in the same spot, we were not allowed to put an internally lit sign in there anymore. Nor are the letterings on our building allowed to be internally lit, nor upward facing lighting for any, exposed lights in the sky. So I guess, I'm not really in favor of it unless it's going to be favorable for the rest of the businesses in this town. I think if it is going to be in favor for them, they are a business, they are their own entity, their own school. The rest of the businesses in town should be able to up their signage and allow everybody to have internally lit signs if that is going to go this route.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. Is there anything else on Zoom? Any other questions from the board?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Discussion? Okay. Do you have any final closing statements?
No, I just thank you for your consideration.
Anything on Zoom, Jared?
Negative.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Next on the agenda is we're going to open a new public hearing for the Melinda Richards Taggart Trust. Go ahead, Jared.
This is application numbers 154-86/87-CU Amendment Number 2 and 481-20-FHR- Amendment Number 1. The applicant is Nicole Duquette of Greenman Pedersen Incorporated. The property owner is Melinda Richards Taggart Trust. The application is to demolish the auto parts store, the Napa building, and replace it with parking, plus the installation of new fuel tanks, pipes, and concrete. This project is located within the Village Residential Commercial District. Hearing date is today, September 23rd, 2024, 6 p.m. Public postings were at the town clerk's office, town hall bulletin boards, post office, and town website on September 9th, 2024, and the newspaper of record, the Vermont Journal, on August 28th, 2024, and the abutting property owners were notified on August 23rd, 2024.
Thank you, Jared. So do we have someone who's here to speak on behalf of the applicant today?
Yes, I'm online.
Okay. So yourself and anyone else that wishes to speak to this hearing, you do have to be sworn in. So if you can repeat after me, do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give relative to the matter now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under pains and penalties of perjury? I do.
I do.
Go ahead and tell us about your project.
Wonderful. My name is Nicole Duquette from Greenman Peterson, or GPI for short. With me here is Ben Bolin from Summit Distributing. He's my client for this project. I do have to ask, am I on a screen that I can share images?
Give us 1 second. Yep, give us 1 second. All good? There we go. So you're up on the big screen.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. So I always find I'm a visual person. I like my images. So we are proposing to redevelop 129 Main Street. So the existing site consists of an existing convenience store. It's about a 2,500 square foot convenience store, almost 3,000 square foot Napa Auto Parts store, and a two island fuel dispensing island here, canopy here. So what we are proposing to do is to raise the existing Napa Auto Parts store and replace it with a 12 parking space parking lot. Part of that would include moving our ADA space from the front of the building. If I can just bring this image up. So this is the existing Napa Auto Parts store with the convenience store on the right-hand side and the two fueling islands in the front. So we'd be removing this building, replacing it with the 12 parking space parking lot here. As part of that, we'd be moving the ADA accessible space to the side and moving it to the side and continuing the existing sidewalk along the side of the building. This will allow us to provide a better ADA access by putting an ADA ramp on the side of the building and continue it along to the front of the building to the main building entrance. So with that, we will be proposing to enclose the dumpsters. This is one of the only sites that 2 years ago when that flood happened, this is the only site, one of the sites on the street that the building was actually out of the flooding. So, but the dumpsters did shift a little. So one of the things we do want to do is we want to make sure the dumpsters are put on a concrete pad that is elevated a little bit and enclosed by a fence so that they don't shift as much as they did during that flood. The other thing that we're planning on doing is there's two propane tanks on the side of the building. Those will be moved to the back of the building. These AC units will be removed and replaced with a mini split HVAC unit. As part of this process too, like anything, our tanks they do need to get replaced after so long. So as part of this application, we are proposing to replace the existing UST tanks with brand new tanks and piping to the fuel islands. So we will be repouring a concrete mat. This mat, we will have the spill containment grooves around, which aren't there today. The mat will be a little bit larger than the existing mat. And the fuel canopy and islands will remain the same. The other thing that will remain the same is the existing ID sign that's in the front of the site. So a couple of things that we had, we did receive the floodplain manager comments. One of the comments was the buoyancy calculations, which we do have because we provided that to get our DEC permit for the underground storage tank. So we'll provide those same calculations to the flood manager. The other comment was to anchor the propane tanks, which we will pour a concrete pad and anchor those propane tanks to in this location in the back. It is above the base flood elevation, but we understand that we do want to anchor them because of the 1 foot rule above the base flood elevation. The other comment was about the mini split HVAC unit to elevate that above the 1 foot above the base flood elevation, and that will be done as well. And then the last comment that the flood manager had was to revise the dumpster enclosure detail so that the flood waters would be able to flow, so that the dumpster enclosure wouldn't be acting as walls that could be subject to floodwaters. So I do want to ask the town what their preference is on that. We could, right now we have a chain link fence with vinyl slats. One thing we could do is remove the slats from the side or the back so that it doesn't become more of a dam type structure with the slats in. The other thing we could do is just keep the slats along the front wall, the front gate, so that it's not viewed from the street. And then the last thing we could do is just move the slats up so that we have a clear flood transference underneath, and leave the bottom open, but continue to have the slats above on the chain link fence. So just wanted to get your opinion on that, whether you had a recommendation on that, so that I could transfer that to our client. That being said, I don't want to take up too much of your time. If you have any questions, both Ben and I are here to answer them. Thank you.
Thanks for that initial presentation. So yeah, we gladly tackle the trash enclosure first. After reading his comment letter, I was thinking, and we'll hear from the rest of the board what their thoughts were, was having kind of maybe like a 1 foot rate from where that I believe it was like vinyl slats would be, that it could be off the ground about a foot, and that would give the same working mechanisms that the flood baffles do to like our raised structures. But what's the rest of the board think? Because that would also provide the same, that would provide 90% of the coverage to hide the dumpsters.
Yeah, that'd be fine with me.
Sounds better.
Okay. Other questions from the board in regards to this project?
When the bathrooms, you have bathrooms now in the building that you're going to raise. Are there proposed bathrooms in the facility that exists now?
There is an existing bathroom in the facility, in the convenience store.
Will it be open to public?
Ben, do you have the answer on that one?
Yes, that's correct. Public restrooms.
Go ahead, Phil.
Is there going to be vehicle access to the back of the building?
So right now there is gravel back there. So there could, I know that the next door neighbors, the American Legion does park on this lot as well. So we don't want to stop them from parking where they need to park. But as far as trucks go for deliveries, no, we weren't planning on having any vehicles for the convenience store purposes in the back of the building.
Does this building have an exit?
Say that again?
Does the building have an exit? Doesn't show one on the map. It shows the front door.
There is an exit on the back left.
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
He said there is an exit on the back side.
Oh, because it doesn't show it on this map.
So if you go on sheet 4 of 6, that does show all of the building entrances, exits, emergency doors.
George, is it a good time to bring up the asbestos issues?
Sure. You can fire any questions you
If
want.
you could just explain the asbestos removal, basically.
So we have had Verdantis Verdantis has done all of the soils monitoring on the site, as well as Summit Distributing has done an asbestos test. So in that package, I believe there's an asbestos mitigation plan in there. Ben, do you have any more information on that you can share?
I do not.
Okay. But the asbestos will be removed per federal requirements.
Do you have a follow-up to that?
No, I read on here what they did, but I just wanted to make sure it was on record
So
that.
I've got a question, looking at page 4. On the left-hand side, I see where the proposed saw cut is, and then is where you've got depicted drainage between the new parking spaces and where the proposed saw cut is that going to be replaced with asphalt, or what's the plan for that area?
So, proposed saw cut. So
The proposed saw cut looks like it runs basically from Main Street about 2/3 along the lot. And I'm just curious, so I see where you've got your gravel drainage set up by your parking spots, and then over from that area to where that proposed saw cut is. What's the plan?
so this will remain pavement. Anything that is pavement today, like this area here, will remain paved. This will become, this is the existing building here. So this area will be paved, and then this will be drainage in here, and an elevation change there. And then this area here, which is existing gravel, will remain existing gravel.
Okay. So are you going to be, where that proposed saw cut in, going to be digging up what may be deemed existing asphalt and replacing that?
So we could probably, and I could probably shift that saw cut line to the edge of the gravel here, because we don't need to replace the pavement there.
Okay, no, because it was more that if it was going to be replaced, my follow-up question was going to be, is that going to slope into that stone drainage instead of to keep the water on your property versus angling it at the American Legion?
Yeah, so that pavement is of no use to our site. We were actually just maintaining that pavement for the American Legion.
Okay.
So we would just keep the existing grades here.
Okay.
I was looking at the property on the right-hand side where there's a residential house right next to it. There's an existing fence. Is that yours or theirs? And will that still be shielded for them?
So we are not proposing to do anything with that fence. That fence will remain.
Do you own the fencing, or is it the neighbors? I don't know who owns it.
Ben, it's right on the line, so I don't know if anybody knows who owns it at this point.
Yeah, I believe it's the neighbors, but I'm not 100% sure.
Can we talk about any lighting changes that'll be done to the property?
Yep, there's no lighting changes proposed.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Phil.
Behind the building again, behind the dumpster, between the dumpster and the river, that land back there, do you have any plans on stormwater retention back there, or stormwater mitigation to prevent oils and whatever's in that parking lot from going into the Black River?
So right now we don't have anything proposed except for these infiltration trenches here. So basically everything would be collected by the infiltration trenches.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? I couldn't hear. I didn't.
So the only thing we have proposed for drainage is the infiltration trenches here.
Right, but all that's ultimately heading to the river, correct?
So it would be collected in here and go to the groundwater. It wouldn't flow. It wouldn't flow to the river. So that infiltration trench. So that infiltration trench consists of a 3-foot deep crushed stone with a fabric around it. So that collects the water and lets it infiltrate into the ground.
Okay.
So to follow up on Phil's question, based off page 5, depicted toward the back of the lot along the Black River, there is a tag with a arrow that points kind of to an open area that says prop period, which I would assume means proposed sediment control fence. And is that temporary or for construction, or is that going to be full-time usage?
So that's a silt fence.
Oh, okay.
So that's just during construction. And I'm sorry, the leader should be moved to the line with the triangles. I apologize.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so there's proposed silt fence along the river, along Black River. And then there's proposed straw wattle along the abutters property, or the American Legion's property.
Would there be any possibility of doing plantings back there along the river to try to slow some of that and absorb it, have a little riparian buffer there?
That's something we can definitely add.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be a big deal, but it would be a big deal, to slow some of your water from going into the river.
Yeah, because right now there isn't anything along the river here. So we could add some native species, shrub type species to as kind of like a buffer.
Great.
Just to go over, we do have 3 to serve letters. One from the police with no restrictions, and then from the ambulance, their restrictions are that it must have the properly addressed per E911 standards, with reflective numberings visible from the road. And then from the fire department, his requirements and conditions requires a permit from Vermont Division of Fire Safety, which we did see in here. If any hazardous materials or contaminations are found during demolition and redevelopment, contamination must be mitigated for the completion, which we did see your proposed plan of action for those, but just to cover those 3 letters. Other things from the board?
No, I mean, we just want to clarify that the existing building is not going to expand in size. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Everything else.
These guys are going to be inside of the
She said it was
Yep,
inside of
she
the-
said the one inside is going to
And
be
it's gonna be
publicly
public.
accessible.
Okay.
Yep. Any other comments from the board?
I guess just to make sure that it's clarified, if they're agreeable to plantings along the river edge and even any green space? Is there any other green space at all?
I think the rest of the lot's paved.
They're just behind the building.
Yeah.
I know we swore a few people in from the crowd. Is there anyone who wants to make a comment? See, saw Noah's hand was up first.
Noah Schmidt, I'm just curious about sidewalks. I imagine that the entrance to that property should be maintained by those property owners. And I'm just assuming that all paving's going to get updated as someone who walks through there. It's definitely rough and could use some love.
Thank you for your comment. Do you have a response in regards to how the sidewalk is going to be affected?
So in front of the site, there isn't a sidewalk. There's definitely a path. Hold on, let me give you the street view of this.
Where is the sidewalk?
Okay, apologize for that. So yes, what Noah is saying Yes, the pavement is very rough in front of the side, the site where the pedestrians are supposed to walk. That all will be replaced. So this will all be repaved all along here. So you do have this part of sidewalk, and then you have the driveway openings, and the driveway openings will be repaved as part of this.
Repaving is interesting, but will it be marked as a sidewalk? You
Yeah,
know what I
because
mean?
that would be a road cut or sidewalk
It looks
cut.
like a sidewalk. Okay, so I was asking too, because you cannot tell where it is there.
Will the sidewalk section be concrete?
So the question was, would the sidewalk, the area that is where the cut is that going to be put back to concrete, or is that going to be pavement?
So right now it's pavement. So we were planning on matching existing.
Okay. Thank you. So we had some other questions. Mr. Aldens, were you sworn? Okay, give me 1 second. I'll swear you in. Repeat after me. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give relative to the matter now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under pains and penalties of perjury? I do.
I do, thank you. Eric Alden, Trailside Road. Just a couple questions. The first one, I noticed the changing or creating a handicap accessible ramp. But I think, which is great, but I think once they get to the door, it's difficult for anybody that's mobility impaired, because those doors swing outward and the sidewalk is fairly small at that section. So while they're creating a ramp to get up there, I think once you get to the door, it makes it a little difficult to actually enter into the business, because those doors swing out there. So I don't think you have enough clearance if someone was actually in a wheelchair or had, severe difficulties. I'll just shoot them all off. My other question was, I'm curious if there's anything actually happening to the store and the canopy itself. It's pretty shabby looking, pretty worn down. The facade looks terrible. The store is pretty worn down inside. So are there any plans as part of this project to spruce up the store, so to speak? And my last comment is, because they're building a new pad or structure in the floodway, I'm curious if there's an H&H study that's required for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any comments to his questions?
So just working in backwards. So because we're taking down a structure and we're not proposing any new structures, the floodplain manager determined that we wouldn't need any permits for that or any other studies, because we're not proposing a new structure. We're actually taking down a structure within the floodplain. Then to answer the question about this is the wrong plan to do this on, the ADA access in front of the building. So ADA requires a 5-foot sidewalk, 3-foot clearance. So 5 foot for any turning maneuvering. So any of your landings that you have to turn on have to be 5 feet wide. We actually have 5.5 feet. And as you can see with this, there will be 2 doors opening in opposite directions, so that an accessible person can open it up to that right-hand door up and go in, instead of opening it into the sidewalk. So this does completely comply with ADA requirements, with at least a 5-foot turning area for any wheelchair accessible persons, and 3-foot clearance, which is exceeded by the 5. I'm not quite sure if there was any other questions.
Yep, so the last comment was in regards to the fuel island itself and the interior, exterior of the existing convenience store, if there's going to be work done there as well.
So Ben, would you be able to answer that one?
So as far as the fuel island, the canopy poles, cosmetic more than anything, new paint job, painting of the canopy, bottom part. And as far as the store is concerned, all 4 sides on the exterior, we will be putting new slat wall in, as well as new windows in the front. Obviously redoing the bathroom so it can be a public restroom. And those are just a couple of the things that we're going to do to spruce up the store.
Thank you. Comments from the board before we go back to public comments?
How long is this project gonna take?
Ben, do you have any idea of construction?
My sense is no more than 90 days, probably between 60 and 90 days. The tank job itself usually takes a month and a half, and we're going to try to do the rest of this project at the same time to make sure there's the least amount of disruption as possible. But I would say probably 60 days.
But will the store be open while you're doing it?
I don't believe that that's going to be possible.
So, and they may decide to phase this, like they may have the store open while they're demoing the Napa Auto Parts store, because that can be fenced off and separated from the current use. But as far as the repaving around it and replacing the tanks, yes, the store would have to close with the replacement of the tanks.
Other questions from the board before we go back to public? Okay, I think there's a few other hands. Go ahead, come on up. And you were sworn in?
Ned Bowen.
You did have your hand raised?
I'm sorry?
You did have your hand raised when we swore people in?
No, I did not.
Okay, so we're going to swear you in. 1 second. Do you solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give relative to the matter now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? I do.
I do.
Okay.
My name is Ned Bowen. I'm Post 36 American Legion Finance Officer. And we have minor concerns for the most part. But where would you intend on having all your delivery trucks unload? Because I know now they park in front of Napa and over on the side and drive around behind the building. And I'm assuming that's not happening.
So the fuel tanks, obviously the fuel tanker would come in and deliver fuel here. Let me go to the site plan. So it would continue to be. Oh, my plans got mixed around here. So fuel deliveries would still be maintained here, and then we would have to bring in the delivery truck in and around the front still, as what is happening today.
We also have, I guess, concerns between the two buildings, the old, well, soon to be old Napa building, what have you. In our building, there's a trough, if you will, that runs down towards the Black River for rain runoff. And we have concerns in regards to the elevation and what that will do there. There is what I can tell you is, that, in my opinion, a perpetual pothole. We've filled it many, many times, and it's just always comes back. But we want to make sure that we're not going to get flooded out in rainstorms. I mean, obviously, we get a July flood or an Irene, that's a whole different thing, but.
Yeah, I think you're going to see less, because what you're probably seeing is runoff from the Napa roof going onto your pavement. In this, you're only receiving your runoff from your section, the section of pavement that's in that area of pavement. Everything else runs either to the front, runs into this infiltration trench, or to the infiltration trench in the back. So you'll probably see less rilling and less damage because of water at this point. But I can take a look at the grades there to make sure that, and make sure that's detailed, to make sure that we have that trough still there. I don't think we need to touch this portion of the pavement. I think I can pull back that saw cut line. However, that's something that we can probably talk about between Summit Distributing and the American Legion too.
Okay, and would the pavement be brought over to our pavement? I know between the edge of our pavement and probably our property line, it's gravel. It's all behind Napa and so forth is gravel.
Yeah, we weren't proposing to change anything from gravel to pavement in that area. It would continue to be gravel.
And then the only other question I have is, we've been graciously allowed to keep our dumpster behind the Shell Station store building. And I just kind of like to hope we can work something out. 'Cause we don't have a lot of space at the Legion. Obviously, we've got maybe 10 parking spaces there, and we don't need to take one up with a dumpster, so hopefully we can work something out. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Is there any other comments from the crowd? Anything on Zoom, Jared?
Negative.
Other questions from the board members?
Just snow removal, where are they gonna push all the snow?
It would be on top of the infiltration trenches.
Okay.
And off towards the gravel area.
It's on page 4, Doug.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing on Zoom, Jared? I make a motion that we close the hearing.
A second.
Discussion. Once again, anything on?
Negative.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is the minutes from August 12th. Anyone have any corrections for page 1?
Yeah, just the top thing, just noted. George Tucker's noted. George Tucker's note. George Tucker's noted, wouldn't it be more appropriate?
Where are you seeing that, sorry?
Number 2, the very first sentence. George Tucker's note. Or note,
Oh,
maybe just
so-
notes,
okay.
put an S in there.
Issue.
So it sounds right.
Okay.
And on number 7, it shouldn't be George Sheehan.
She has a problem with
She
that.
doesn't like Doug's name. But it's Doug Sheehan.
That's Doug. Okay.
On number 7, that's.
I have something.
You have something?
I do.
Okay, fire away.
In section, well, it looks like 6, but number 3, I have just my last name a couple of times in that paragraph.
Okay, what's the appropriate spelling?
Jarrod. And also Phil says we just dodged a bullet with Debbie. So, not sure what Debbie refers to.
Oh, that's Debbie the Storm. I did have that one.
Okay.
Yep. Storm.
On page 2, number 6, it says Phil Carter says he hasn't been in.
Oh, yeah, so he hadn't been inside the unit?
Yeah, that's what I was referring to, is I hadn't been into Ada Brew.
Yep, on that
So I was
side,
just
yeah.
trying to get an idea of what was going on in there.
There's one for number 4 on page 2.
Page back. You have one on page 2, you said?
Yes.
Okay, where?
Number 4, middle of the paragraph, just says Tucker. Twice in 1 sentence, 2
Yep,
sentences.
I see it.
Okay.
Then Paraha, pardon me?
Just insert quickly. I have been, when I start a paragraph, I'll say, like George Tucker. And then when I refer to George throughout the rest, I just have been only using the last name. I've been doing that all along. Is that something you want me to change? It's always first and last name, even when it's already been referenced at the start?
What do you think, Phil?
I think it's
Okay.
I think it's all right.
I think it's okay in the same paragraph.
Because, well, again, we're remembering, if this goes to a judge, they're reading this for the first time. So as long as the story's painted here and it's fairly clear where it's going, we're okay.
Okay.
But, you know, that's why it's so important that we all review these minutes and make sure they're right.
So like within that paragraph, right, is it says that, like it says, an ask Brom what was replaced, right? So I think if you change kind of a paragraph, you should make sure that you at least once say that that last name against, again.
Yeah. That's what I do try to do. If I do miss one, I definitely let me know. But that's good that we have that understanding. I think that makes sense to do it that way for understanding and reading it through.
I have a correction on page 3.
Okay.
Under 6, number 4. It's just a typo where it says, and must be 1 foot above BFE.
Yep.
And the word about is there
Oh, I see it.
incorrectly.
Okay, thank you.
That's an easy one. I have one on page 4, number 7, 5. Phil Carter asks about lot 1 acres. I don't know what that means.
So I think that's going to be the number of acres in lot number 1.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. That makes sense.
So that's,
The number,
yeah, because that was a subdivision, and so that would be the acres.
Okay, so that would be Ted's response.
Yeah, that would be, yeah.
And then the very last 3 words, but it does. I don't.
The new lot, fronts Gill Terrace for a short distance. Okay, so that's in reference to where you asked about access, and so that lot does have a portion that contacts the road that would allow access for that lot.
Okay, so if we just clarify that.
Okay.
So
Can you tell me what you'd like me to change that to?
So it says, so it goes, the new lot of 13.94 acres, acre lot. So it'd be the new lot of 13.94 acres, front Gill Terrace for a short distance, allowing access.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Otherwise, good job.
I'll make a motion, we accept them as corrected for the minutes of August 12th, 2024.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And under other business, there is just a packet of bi-weekly letters in relation to the condition for the MOU of the mill for your reference.
Groovy.
And with that, I make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, folks. Have a great night.